legal channels and abuse her to exact revenge on anyone who has left NXIVM, and especially including his ex-wife, Natalie Foley. We have an article here from 2010 where it reads off: an Albany-based self-improvement organization labeled by critics as a cult is flexing its legal muscles against a former top officer in Washington state who broke away from the group in an argument over the ethics of its core leaders. Just a few hours before Susan F. Doan's bankruptcy was to be discharged in U.S. bankruptcy court, a NXIVM attorney intervened with an adversarial motion to have her petition thrown out so she could no longer be protected from creditors. So Doan's said that her former employer is retaliation for her departure from the group and lacks merit. She was representing herself, and they were Keith Raniere and his president of NXIVM at the time, Nancy Salzman, were attacking her by trying to prevent her from being able to declare bankruptcy. She's not the only one that NXIVM went after. They also went after Kim Woolhouse, as well as his ex-wife. So NXIVM will bankrupt people because if you look at the earlier document from the FBI, the NXIVM charged $1,000 per class. So a 5-day workshop was $5,000. So they quickly bankrupted a lot of people. And then if those people left and then tried to declare bankruptcy because obviously they were broke from spending all their money in NXIVM, the NXIVM would turn around and try to prevent their being able to do that, just to attack them. And he was particularly nasty. Apparently, Keith Raniere's ex-wife, who was dating him prior to his NXIVM, she wrote an article here. I'll put links to all this at the bottom, the details. But her name's Tony or Natalie. She goes by Tony, and she discusses her relationship and how she started dating him when he was running consumer bylines, and then when he started Nancy Salzman. So she goes through all the abuse that she withstood in her relationship, and then she's him. And very interesting is the allegations. She wrote a statement. Now, when NXIVM came after her, when she was in bankruptcy court and NXIVM was trying to prevent it, she wrote a signed statement in 2011 to the judge to explain to him what was going on, what he was doing. So here's the document. Again, I'll put this below in a link. This is the official statement that she gave the judge. And here she details exactly why Raniere was going after her. She said prior to leaving him in 1999, she was raped repeatedly by Raniere, and each time with him telling her it was harder on him than it was on her, and that they needed to be together so that she could share his energy, and that she needed to remain silent so that it would not wake up her child who was sleeping in a nearby room. From these experiences, she ended up developing post-traumatic stress disorder and fibromyalgia. Also, she said the real reason why NXIVM wants to depose her has nothing to do with the bankruptcy case of Miss Doan's or Miss Woolhouse, but who she'd never even heard of before, but that she believed the main reason was to silence her from revealing the things that she knew about Raniere, such as the fact that he was a compulsive gambler, a sex addict with bizarre desires and needs, and a con man that specializes in Ponzi schemes. And this is in 2011. Okay, this is all coming out. In addition, she said she writes, I also think that NXIVM wants to depose me in order to make her reveal the names of various women who have contacted her in order to discuss their sexual involvement with Raniere, at least one of them, which was well under the age of consent, their mental abuse by him and his followers, and the fact that they and members of their families were stalked by Raniere and his followers when they chose to leave him. So she details all of this to the judge in a letter to the judge. So it took her 8.5 years because NXIVM kept coming after her and coming after her in bankruptcy court. It took her 8.5 years to finally process her bankruptcy. So this was on top of other abuse that she suffered from this case, from NXIVM. And she was married to him for a while, and so this was particularly nasty with her. She writes here that that she finally came to realize that Raniere and Salzman were trying to brainwash her. So she removed her son from the situation as she fled, and since that time, she said, she was stalked and threatened and the subject of numerous legal actions. She has had to defend herself against a variety of potential criminal charges as a result of complaints that were filed by NXIVM and other members of their inner circle. When she left, she said she was labeled a suppressive, which is also a word I believe that's used by Dianetics people. As per Raniere's unattributed use of the language from Paradise Lost, the equivalent of Lucifer, and she had to endure NXIVM's ongoing abuse of several members of her family as well, including her 80-year-old mother and her 85-year-old father, and her brother, who was eventually driven to commit suicide in March 2009. So she's saying that NXIVM's harassment of her brother drove him to suicide. She writes that for more than a decade, NXIVM and Raniere have been abusing and misusing the legal system in order to silence their critics and to scare other members into submission. This misbehavior has increased greatly since the cult and its leader gained influence and control over the vast fortune of Clare and Sara Bronfman, two young women who are heirs to the Bronfman family fortune and who are the de facto owners of NXIVM. And she writes that time has come for a court to put an end to NXIVM's abuse and misuse of the legal system and to say no to NXIVM's terrorism by litigation. Terrorism by litigation. So this is very interesting. It goes on what she thinks that NXIVM should be forced to do, but yeah, this is very interesting. So I'll put a link up there so that